Well, once again, thank you so much. Just a couple of things to report. As you probably read in the newspaper, maybe the most important thing is Mr. Castens will be retiring at the end of this year. Yeah. He's going to do some fishing for a while, and then he'll figure it out from there. But we are definitely going to miss him. I believe that Charlie and I have had a really good working relationship and friendship for a number of years now, and it's made it a lot easier when you've got somebody you can count on to get things done, and Charlie certainly has been that person for me. We will start in October looking for a replacement. We'll do both an internal and external search. So, and we hope we're able to find somebody in about a 3 to 4 month period. It's not easy to find that right person for such an important position.
What's it pay? I might be interested.
Yeah. Let me think. Extend, working, fishing. Yeah. In terms of some of the projects, we're going to be opening up the bids the middle of June for Cypress, so we'll have a better handle on exactly what that's going to cost us. We're hoping it comes in our estimates. We'll see. And then in starting probably July, August, September timeframe, we'll begin the process for designing Rotary Park, all those improvements.
Sarah Park.
Why did I say Rotary? Mm-hmm. Sarah, I'm sorry. A lot of people have asked us over the last few months, well, now that you've won that $2 million, exactly what are you going to do with it? Well, interestingly enough, that has actually been decided months ago, because through our town hall process where the community showed up and kind of told us what their priorities were, there was no way we could go into that competition and go back to Colorado without telling them beforehand exactly what projects we had in mind, because they don't just hand you a check and say, let us know how it works out. It just doesn't work that way. Having said that, what we did was the ABC administrative team and then the bigger team got together, and we decided for now to allocate it as follows. $1 million will go towards the downtown revitalization project or gathering spot, the public square, whatever you want to call it. That's on the property that will be the corners McCulloch and Quirio. That about 1.5 acres, the city purchased that 3 or 4 months ago. So $1 million will be to begin that project. Just as a reminder, the city will only retain about half of that property, and we will sell off the other half to developers who agree to build what we are looking for, so that we can create truly a gathering spot for the downtown area. We will build the public square that's going to include seating areas, shade, Wi-Fi, music, and a bridge that then goes across to the parking lot that's there on Mesquite, because it's right across, that bridge will be across Pima Wash, and so it gives us that property access to parking. So we will do that. $500,000 will go to the Eco-Environmental Center, Eco-Environmental Learning Center that will be out at the Havasu Riviera project. That's going to be on the 280 acres that we control. And so that is nowhere near what it's going to cost, but it gets us started in terms of the design, etc. We believe that's going to be a really great project, not only for the various agencies that help us along the river, but also for our children, because it is going to be a learning center where they can learn all about our local environment, the river, the lake, you name it. And it's good. We hope to have it kind of a hands-on learning approach. Then $400,000 will go towards creation of the Entrepreneur Co-Location Center. There are more seats in here if anybody wants to come in. The Co-Location Center, again, is kind of a one-stop shopping for entrepreneurs where they can rent space, some office space, or maybe they're going to have a meeting with an important client so they can have a conference room. There'll be computers there and other tools to help them promote their own business. We will likely put our economic development group into this space so that they can manage it and run it successfully. Ideally, what would happen is that the developers that we sell the property to on that downtown lot will go up 2 or 3 stories, create some office space, and then they can rent it. Because one of the things we learned by looking at other co-location or entrepreneur co-location spaces in the Southwest is that it needs to be in the downtown area where things are happening. That's important. Because if they invite their clients in, they don't want to be out in Timbuktu or or in an industrial area where pounding is going on or whatever. They want to be in a downtown where there's activity. So hopefully that would occur. So that leaves $100,000. And what we're doing with the remaining 100 is that $20,000 will go to our tourism pillar, $20,000 will go toward community engagement pillar, and another 20 will go to our education pillar. All of those have smaller, less capital intensive projects, but still could use some additional funding. And they also would have available the final $40,000 that if they come up with another idea to extend their own pillar, something that the community was looking for, then they would have that ability to get the other 40,000. Now, it is not to say that those numbers are hard and fast. If a good example would be if we were told that, the co-location center just needs another $100,000 to get it off the ground, we would probably allocate it from the $1 million of the downtown project because they're connected. So we're able to move those things around. Ideally, we do want to get these projects accelerated as quickly as possible. To date, we've already had interest in the downtown project. So we're pretty excited about that. And why wouldn't a developer be interested? We're bringing customers right to their front door, as we've talked about before. So we're hopeful. Now, we will be having a community celebration September 29th, I believe, from 4 to 8 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock in the evening. It will be on that site, and our community will be able to learn more about all the projects that we're working on. And it's really to thank the community for all their hard work on this 2.5-year, 3-year journey called America's Best Communities. So we hope everybody will come out for that. And there'll be, I think we're planning things like hot dogs and a beer garden and all kinds of different things. But really it's to thank the community more than anything else. Trash pickup. I just wanted to talk about that again a little bit more. One of the things that I thought last time we were here was that it was going to start around July 1. I was incorrect. We're being told by Republic that it takes time to get those cans and trucks and whatnot. So it will be sometime early after the new year. That's roughly what they're looking at. And as a reminder, because I keep getting the same question, and that is, well, how am I going to handle these big cans? Well, I'm going to say it again for anybody watching this on TV. We ask you to try out the new cans. If they don't work, you have an option to go to a 65-gallon can. If it doesn't work, then just keep doing what you're doing. It's that simple. Can't be any simpler than that. I get questions all the time. Well, what are we going to do with those weekend visitors that used to put out their bags? They still can. This is a semi-automated system. So the driver has the ability from inside or outside of the truck to use the arm to pick up the big cans, and then if he's outside the truck, he picks up the remaining and it goes into the front loading bin. This was specifically designed to work this way. Nobody has to think, well, I'll never be able to get the big can down there. You can just keep doing what you are doing. They will pick it up. It is unlimited trash. That has not changed. If you still have clippings, lawn clippings, landscaping clipping, whatever you're doing today, keep doing it. Or you can put them in one of the, don't put it in the recycling can, but the other one. But you can keep bundling them up and laying them out on the curb. They will pick them up. They've made that abundantly clear. Nothing will change in that regard. So hopefully people who are watching at home will pass that on to their friends and neighbors, because we're trying to make this as simple as possible while also trying to extend the life of our landfill, because nobody in town really wants to spend $5 to $10 million on a new landfill, or watch the rates double or triple because we can't find one and now we've got to ship it somewhere. And a lot of communities are forced to do that. Because we can't just go out in the desert and dump it. It doesn't work that way. So, and that land does not belong to us. Yeah, there are people who do it. I get that. And I've been on some of the desert cleanup crews, but we're not going to do it. So anyway, hopefully that's pretty clear. And I can't emphasize enough that it definitely will work. So, and we're probably getting more people who are happy to have the larger cans with the recycling. And as I've said before, if you look at other communities that are doing this, their recycling goes up about 400%. 400%. And by the way, we happen to be the only community in the entire area that aren't using the big cans. Kingman uses them. Bullhead uses them. Desert Hills, just down the road right here, they use them. We're the only ones that does them. So what's that?
So
Parker uses them. So we're the troublemakers and holdouts. So and again, there'll be some people that aren't going to use the cans, and we get it, and that's why the system is designed this way. So we'll be good to go. Okay, with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
Since you're talking about trash cans, quick question. For some of us who leave for extended periods of time, is there going to be a vacation hold so you don't have to pay for the trash while you're gone for 2 or 3
No.
months?
No. You don't. It doesn't work that way now.
I know.
And here's why we don't do it that way. Next thing you know, everybody's making a deal with their neighbor. And it doesn't work. So what we said is that everybody is responsible for trash. Everybody will have to pay for it. Yes, those who leave, who have a second home and leave it for a period of time, are paying for that service while they're not there. But you know what? We're not much different than anybody else. I pay for that service, and we have a home in Wickenburg. We got to pay for it. And it's so that I don't go to my neighbor down the street and say, I'm gone for 4 months of the year. Yeah, and you mind if I use your cans while I'm here? So that's the way it will remain that way. Now the billing will go back. We've decided the billing will remain with the city. So that we looked at it, and there was a wide variety of reasons, primarily the expenditure limitation issues we're dealing with. But we got a workaround. We figured out a workaround, and so the building's going to remain with the city. That'll be easier for everybody. Chuck?
Yeah, on the trash cans, are they going to treat these people that, they rent their houses for weekends and for a week at a time and stuff like that? Are we going to treat them as residential?
Yes.
Or are we going to treat them as commercial?
No, they'll be residential.
Everybody that comes there, say somebody stays there for a week and they put their trash out there, who's going to put the trash out?
Well, hopefully when they leave.
For another couple weeks and the trash is sitting there for...
No, it shouldn't. This is going to be residential. If you've got a vacation home that you're renting out, Airbnb, whatever you want to call them, it's no different than a regular home. What's typically happening now is that they take and they put them in bags, not cans, and they put it out on the curb, and the guys pick it up. Same thing's going to happen starting in January.
Well, I was going to say, but are they going to give them cans if they know that they're not going to have use of them? They'll put them on the bag.
Well, Republic, the answer to that is Republic will one of the issues is that we have a lot of people who leave for the summer and own a home here. Republic will work. They're not just going to go start dumping cans at all the residents. They'll contact you and arrange a time to have those dropped off. We don't want a bunch of cans sitting out on the curb letting burglars know nobody's home. We don't want that. So they realize, and we think of ourselves as the only resort community in the world. Most of Arizona is a resort area. You go to Phoenix, Glendale, Chandler, Wickenburg, you name it. We had a home in Goodyear. All of them have the same kind of issues, and they've done this many, many, many times. They actually have a crew that comes in, if I remember correctly, that begins making those arrangements on when will you be at your home so we can arrange to pick them up. And in some cases, I think they actually, if you have a truck, allow you to come pick them up yourself, but they would prefer to deliver them. So it shouldn't be an issue. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The one drawback to this that I can think of is probably what we've got currently, and that's not in the retaining and putting out of the trash cans. It's putting them away after they've been empty.
Mm-hmm.
If your renter or summer vacationer puts that container out, then you're going to have the problem. Who's going to put it back? You're either going to have to arrange it with the neighbor or stick with the trash bag.
Or the owner of the rental, because all of these are represented. I shouldn't say all. Most of these are represented by some property manager. And all the neighbors, by the way, because of our new rules, now have a contact number within how many feet?
300?
300 feet. That if there's an issue at that rental home, they can call the contact number and that person takes care of it. Because before, guess who was getting contacted? The police department. So in response to some of the uproar over vacation rentals and the wild parties and oil containers and tuning up their Sea-Doos and whatnot, we put in these rules where we had to limit to some degree because the state decided to go a different direction. But we were able to get the rules that we felt were the most important. So now there is a contact number to deal with that. Mike?
Sandy and I read quite a bit in Colorado and other places on Airbnb, HomeAway, et cetera. And every time you go into one of these rentals, there's a manual.
Yep.
That will tell you what to do with your trash, how to work the cable TV, da. So I don't think that should be a problem.
And we, one of the things they have to do also is post house rules. The ones, and I told this story before, but when we were going through this vacation rental and trying to determine what the right answer was, we realized that most of them did do this, the idea of house rules. The one I loved the best was in Florida. And the house rule had a bunch of rules. And it says, and then finally toward the end it says, the neighbors have my contact number. And if I get called out to this rental, you will be escorted immediately off the property, and no, I don't give refunds. So I'm sure that person didn't have too many trouble. Yes?
Hi. First, I'd like to thank you, Charlie, Sam's Place, for having this every month. My question is kind of twofold, maybe threefold. What is the status or the future of Hastings? I see it's been sold. Number two, in regards to trash and whatnot, usually there's a cleaning service that comes in and they either haul the trash off or they set the trash cans out and responsible for picking it up. Are the cans going to be numbered?
I have no idea.
Having worked for the city of Redlands and whatnot, I know vandalism was rampant, and it helped to have a number, you know, I'm
Yes,
just saying, I don't know, that's a Republican
Yeah,
issue.
my get. Well, Charlie just said they will be numbered,
Okay.
and that's the responsibility of Republic anyway.
Yeah, and I can say that I'm handicapped, I've got spinal issues up the Eeyore, and those cans are wonderful. And also, I look forward to it because my recycle can is overflowing every week. And now I can roll it out instead of asking somebody to come in and haul it out and put it on the trash can I have to roll out. And I don't have to put it out every week because I can do it maybe
That's
2
a
or
good
3
point.
weeks. And I can save the labor force, you know, from having to stop every
Right,
week.
that's a good point.
There's a lot of benefits to it, and I'm really saddened. I've been gone for a while. I'm really saddened to see all of the uproar about this change. And it's a good change. Give it a try.
Well, change is hard sometimes.
I'll just tag on to that. Thank you for saying that. I know I'm looking forward to getting my big cans because I'll have just 2 to go out instead of 3. But as the mayor mentioned, one of the primary objectives of this whole thing is to extend the life of our landfill. Can you imagine the cost of not only closing this landfill, but opening a new one, if we can even do that? So that's what we're trying to avoid for as long as possible. And our landfill is filling up with stuff that doesn't need to go to the landfill. So that's the idea, is to have a large recycling container. Now they will take the cardboard and the other stuff that they weren't able to take before because the poor guy was out there at the curb doing the sorting right there on the street. Well, now with this single stream, none of that happens on the street anymore. They just come, you put it all in one can. They dump that one can along with all the recycling from all the rest of that route, and it goes to Vegas. And that's where they sort it. And it's a spectacular facility where they do that.
Charlie, will that include some of the commercial cardboard that I now have to take over directly to Republic?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I will say that because the objective is to keep as much out of our landfill, that my advice is if you're in doubt as to whether or not it's recyclable, put it in the recycling bin. Let the folks in Vegas figure it out. So either way, that hasn't gone to our local landfill. So that's just my advice on that matter. So.
You want to comment on Hastings?
Yeah. Hastings.
Hastings has been sold.
And yes, we know what it's going to be, but we can't say anything.
Can't tell you,
Can't tell you.
but you're gonna love it.
But no, it will not be an Olive Garden or a Trader Joe's. Let's make it clear from the beginning.
We will tell you what it's not gonna
Yeah, it won't be either one of those.
Could you give us an update on the Havasu Riviera? Where we stand on that now?
Well, the road has been graded and completed for a little while now. They continue to work on getting their 404 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, and they're kind of stymied until they get that. They can't move much dirt because they've got to get clearance from the Army Corps, and then usually what the Army Corps is that there's some concessions you have to make, or they require you to make sure that the water flows in a particular direction or whatever. So right now they're waiting on that. Last I heard, they hope to get a response by August. I don't know if that's still the case.
You know, I don't know either. We're working with the developers, the private developers, on some wastewater flow, engineering type of issues, not really issues, but just engineering matters on how the wastewater is going to flow, where pump stations need to go, how to get the electricity to it, and who's going to pay for what. So we're working on the development. We have the development agreement with the COMEX for the roadway improvements and what's going to happen on the 280 acres that the city controls, and that's where the road is. Our agreement all along, or our part of that, that public-private partnership, has been to construct the road and to put in the utilities that will be buried in that road. And so we have those agreements in place. The development agreement for the actual private development itself has not yet been consummated. So we're working on that piece. There's still a lot of moving parts at work here, and including the federal permitting that has to take place before the COMEX begin construction on the public launch facility at the end of that road. So and nothing's going to happen on the city side until after July, because that begins our new fiscal year, and then that's when our budget will support whatever activity takes place. And what you'll see there is after July, you will see construction begin on the new intersection that will be on the highway. Yes, it will be a lighted intersection. Sorry about another traffic light on 95, but that's just the safe thing to do. And so when that happens, then we'll bring that berm down, and then you'll be able to see onto the property and get a better view as to what's happening out there. But nothing on our side happens until after July.
I have a question back onto the trash pickup.
Sure.
I have some large pieces of furniture, such as a recliner or a sectional couch. Is there a place here that I can go to and talk to somebody about?
Your curb.
You can pick up the phone and contact Republic Services, and that's available to you now. There will be what they call 6 bulk pickups. So if you have an old water heater or a couch or a sofa or a big TV or whatever, you can roll it out there, call them up, and they'll come get it.
Now, I came from a community that I couldn't have anything out on my curb over 24 hours.
Thank goodness we don't have that.
We don't have those
Okay.
rules.
They'll tell you what they.
Yeah, and the bulk pickup works. I'll give you an example. We had an old sofa we called last week, last Thursday or Friday, and our normal pickup day is Tuesday. They like to do it on the same day. They were out there Tuesday about 7:30 in the morning, and that sofa was gone. And you can do that 6 times a year.
I had one of those big box TV things that some of us had for years. And when it came time to say goodbye to that thing, and this has been several years ago now, called them up. They said, put it out at the end of the driveway. I rolled it out there. They were there within an hour to get it. So that's that's an advantage that we have here that we may take for granted because it's not available in so many other communities.
And then I also have a street problem that I would like to discuss.
Is that why you're here?
Yeah.
Good. Go for it.
Okay. I live on the corner of Swordfish and Jamaica.
Okay?
And when it rains, it comes down from over here. I don't have a curb on Swordfish. And I have the elementary school. It's right across the street. Well, all the rocks, bless their hearts, come right down. And it kind of goes over into my yard, which I don't mind, except for the fact that it has undermined the sidewalk when it rains. That is on Jamaica, on that corner. Now that
Okay.
I feel like the sidewalk is the city property, that I shouldn't have to fill that in.
No, we can take care of that.
And, so far, when I've come and there's been the debris, they've been very good to be right out the next day or two to scrape and clean up. But I'm just feel like, when do I get curbs in that area?
Good luck. All I can tell you is good luck. We get the question about curbs quite often. They say by the time you get done spending the money on cleaning the streets, you could have put in curbs everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? It costs us less than $150,000 a year for our cleanup crews. A curb costs $250,000 a mile. A mile. Because you don't just go out there and lay down a bunch of cement. You end up, you've got to widen the streets to make those curbs workable. And when you do that, then you've got the areas where curbs would go, or where everybody's mailboxes are now, because that's city property. They just happen to put mailboxes out there. Those all have to get removed and replaced, which means you will interfere with every driveway along that street that has to be removed and replaced. So it starts to add up. We are encouraging people to use larger rock out toward the where your mailboxes are, because if you use the larger, especially if you get the kind of river rock, the rounded off stuff, if you put all that out there, the water just flows right over it. Gravel isn't going anywhere. I've used it and it works wonderfully. But we would like to know the spot you're talking about, and if you'll talk to Jerry.
Swordfish in Jamaica. Super assistant here is making a note as we speak, and we will follow up on that. Obviously, if there's undermining taking place on a sidewalk, typically there are sidewalks in the vicinities of schools. If there's an
Right.
issue there, then yeah, we'll want to address that immediately. But as the mayor said, just putting in curbs often could, if the entire street section is not properly engineered to carry the water away, just putting in curbs can actually cause more damage when the water comes. So we don't want the water to get behind, go into a driveway and get behind that new curb and then actually cause more damage than it would
Maybe
otherwise.
it's a good time to talk about the Havasu Now app.
Havasu Now is an app it's a free app that you can put on your smartphone. It takes about 15 seconds to download it. Just go to your app store, Havasu Now, and it's an app where if you find a situation like that, or a dripping fire hydrant, or a street sign is knocked down, or whatever, you can take a picture of it and tell us about it, and the GPS coordinates go straight to the department in the city that has jurisdiction over responsibility over that particular issue. And it sets up a process where we can track that, get it taken care of. You are notified about the status of that response, and it's worked out very well. We've gotten, I want to guess, 500 to 600 issues resolved through the Havasu Now app since we put it up. So we'd like people to use that.
We can't be everywhere, so.
Yeah, it's a quick and easy way to report a pothole, or somebody smoking pot in the park, or whatever concerns you. You can use that system, and it helps us, and it helps satisfy these kinds of issues that can be frustrating.
Well, I will say, the work on the road after a rain, they're right out there as soon as the rain stops, the next day or two, to get the rocks out of the street. I'm just concerned about kids coming to school on their skateboards and bicycles and sliding on the rocks.
Sure.
And the
Nobody likes it.
motorcycles that turn the corner and.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate byproduct of this community and how it started, and what we've kind of inherited over the years, and while we chip away at it best we can, and there was a time when we were actually doing road widening and putting in curbs, a mile or more a year, but that was back when we were getting adequate HERF funds from the state, which is gas tax dollars that come back to the community to do those kinds of things. Well, those dollars are now going to fund DPS at the state level. We're hoping that at some point those funds will come back to the city, and then we can get back to doing a progressive improvement on those streets.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Quickie, the old way of doing things,
We don't do that anymore.
I had, you don't. I had queried both you, Charlie, and David about how to get my street repaired on Chimawavy, because I had a 4-inch wide by 4 to 6 inch deep rut cut into the blacktop. And I had talked to you, and you suggested that I call Mark Clark personally, explain it to him. So I did. I was pleased. Second day later, here come the chip seal trucks laying the gravel and mud down on that street.
Okay.
So they've now got it filled in at least, and they're using this, I presume the technique is to let cars drive the gravel in, and then they'll do a top coat, so.
Well, we don't do the top coat
We don't
anymore.
do the top coat.
Yeah.
They don't even just leave the gravel.
They
Well,
leave,
they
well,
come
they sweep the
sweep it.
gravel. They'll
What
sweep
get
it.
the excess, they'll come sweep it all.
Yeah, we used to,
The sweep too deep will be okay.
we used to years ago, well, it's pre-recession, of course, we would come in and do what they call a fog seal or fog coat,
Yeah.
which is basically just a black coating over the top. And that was done for aesthetic reasons. That really doesn't add much to the sealing of the driving surface at all. That was done because people liked having a nice clean black street. We quit doing that in the recession because, again, it's not essential. It adds to the cost, and so now what we used to spend on making the streets pretty, we chip seal more streets. So we're able to get more done using the same amount of money.
As long as it works. I just-
And if it's a really big rain and all the rocks go down in the street, that's our chip sealing program right
I'll
Gonna
go
get me
down
in trouble.
Her driveway with my shovel and buckets and pick it up and put it back.
there.
The mayor
Yeah.
getting me in trouble.
Any way to save money. Yes, sir.
Speaking of streets and curbs and water, I noticed there's a lot of activity going on with water mains around town. It looks like they're putting in some new fire hydrants. But is there a plan for the city to replace the existing water
Oh, we have
lines
been.
over a period of whatever, 10 years?
We've been working on that for a number of years because the original stuff is getting really old.
Yeah, and it was cheap to begin.
Yeah, it wasn't great stuff to begin with.
Yeah, you're right. It was really cheap stuff. So yeah, we do have a plan. Sometimes, I mean, we have a specific plan, but sometimes that gets interrupted because stuff breaks.
Yeah.
We've had a number of breaks recently, but every time we have a break, we go and we put in instead of just plugging it, we try to put in a new line.
So there is a plan.
Absolutely.
10 years, I hope. Or is it longer?
Oh, well, that's ongoing. I mean, it's like we have a 5-year CIP cycle, and in every one of those cycles, it will contain some pipeline upgrades.
And along that same line, as part of the downtown revitalization with ABC, is the city going to add money, obviously it's not going to be ABC money, to spruce up the areas around downtown so that when people
Funny you
come,
should ask.
Great question. You want to go ahead?
Sure, yeah. Yes, thank you for saying that.
Swanson would be my first choice.
Well, there is a plan, and if you go to City Hall right now, go in the lobby, you'll see some display boards of the design, the downtown redesign plan that we've been working on for some time now. And what sparked that was the need to resurface McCulloch Boulevard in the downtown area. Next time you're driving down McCulloch, just look at the street surface itself, and you'll see that it's all alligatored up, and the asphaltic surface only lasts for so many years, and then you lose the fines, and the oil, you just can't re-oil it anymore. It just begins to fall apart, and it actually needs to be milled and removed and repaved. Well, that's where we're at on McCulloch at this point. So it was my directive, it's been a couple of years ago now, that instead of just going in there and replacing the street that exists now, let's look at what are the possibilities for the redesign of that whole downtown area. And it's always been my desire and opinion that it would be great if we could slow down and reduce the traffic right on McCulloch, widen the sidewalks, make it more of a pedestrian bistro type of environment, and encourage people to get out of their cars and actually walk Main Street. And so that was the impetus that started this kind of design project. We don't really have a funding mechanism for it, but I thought before we spend money on anything down there, let's have an end product in mind, so that everything that we do, even though it might be smaller piecemeal things, once it all gets done over time, it will result in this kind of overall design theme for the area. So we have that now. I think it's an outstanding project. It does include Mesquite and Swanson. And I'd encourage you to go into City Hall in the lobby and look at those display boards and give me your opinion. I think you'll be pleased.
Yeah, the one other thing I would add is that it's not to say that McCulloch is pedestrian only when we're done. It will still have cars going through. It's just that it will be more narrow, and so people tend to slow down when it becomes narrow. But this plan goes down all the way to the type of landscaping that would be in the different areas, so that we have some uniformity to what we're doing. Because right now it's kind of hodgepodge.
It'll look like Upper McCulloch all the way down to the bridge.
It will look from Acoma down to Lake Havasu Avenue is where this plan is. And again, and one of the things on the sidewalks, the merchants are telling us, we'd really like to have wider sidewalks so that we can put tables and chairs and whatnot out there. They can't do it now because it restricts ADA access. So that's part of that whole plan, and I think when we're all said and done and we're able to actually be able to fund it, people will be really pleased the way it looks.
Is there a target date to get all this done?
Well, we've got to do the
We have to do the paving, and we will do the paving. You'll see that being done in the next year or so. But as far as the overall design plan, you know, if the plan is compelling enough for the merchants in the area to actually go back and reconsider the formation of a district, then that could accelerate a plan like this. But at this point, I don't have dollars allocated to it, other than the paving itself. So but again, at least when we do these improvements in the downtown area, which includes some of the buried infrastructure as well,
right.
When we do repave McCulloch is going to be completely dug up. We're going to have to dig down, replace some old pipelines that are under that street. So it's going to be a mess. It's going to be torn up, and I believe that since we're going to go that far, doggone it, let's spend some more money and make those other improvements that will all kind of complement each other.
With that, are you going to add some traffic signals at some of the key intersections on?
I doubt we'll have signals.
No,
no plans for signals. at this
maybe
point.
roundabouts.
Chuck. Oh, I'm sorry, Norm. I'm sorry. Hang on a minute.
Excuse
Chuck.
me, we're both pointing in different directions.
While we're on the subject of new design, how are we coming on the new hotel down at the channel?
It's moving along. If you go down there right now, you'll see a lot of work right along the channel where they have torn up a lot of the cement and putting in pavers. They'll be putting,
beautiful.
Yeah, they're putting in lighting, chains and bollards, landscaping. So they're moving along pretty quickly. I would assume they're going to do some grading pretty quick because the grading permit's out, isn't it?
Yes, I believe they may have their grading permit now, and I know that the plans for the hotel itself, being the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, the plans have come in and been checked and gone back out. I'm not sure if they've come back with revisions yet or not. So the plans, the building plans themselves are in process. I believe they have what they need to grade. There is one issue with a water line that serves the London Bridge Resort. Back when all of that area used to be the London Bridge Resort and under one ownership, the building where Papa Leone's is, the commercial multi-story building that's right there on the channel, that building, the water service, comes from a meter that's all the way over by the London Bridge sign at the corner of London Bridge Road and the highway. So that water line runs right under where they need to grade for the new hotel. So we need to relocate that meter, that water service, before any of that can happen for obvious reasons. So that won't take long to do it. It's just, you have to engineer it, and you have to assign the resources to get it done, and it's not a simple task, but it's not particularly difficult either. It just takes a little time.
It's amazing what you find when you redevelop after 50 years, and it's like, and we think, why did they do that? And but there was rhyme and reason back then. But
yeah, it's back when you just got it done.
Just got it done.
I also think that's excellent timing on your part, Charlie, to make sure that when McCullough's all torn up in a mess, you're retired.
You noticed that, did you?
I'll be standing in a trout stream in Wyoming someday.
Not my problem.
Chuck.
A couple things. Everybody wants to keep their residential area kind of nice. The other thing on that Havasu now, if you see a house that's like you think is a code violation, you can also take a picture of that and go to code enforcement.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other thing was I got it kind of on a pretty reliable source that they've heard that they can't, the water level at contact point, or the water is so shallow, they can't put a coffer dam in. And I've heard that they're going to pour the ramps on land and then roll them out there into the water. Have you heard anything about that?
No, sir.
Not a word.
That's the first I've heard of it.
Along with what Chuck just asked, is there an ordinance in the city that says we should keep our yards somewhat weed-free?
We do not have a weed ordinance. We explored that, and I'll tell you what, nobody liked that. Well, I should say nobody. The majority did not like that idea. We have ordinances on what you can and cannot do, but we get a lot of questions about vehicles. Vehicles parked in the front. If they're licensed and operable, it's not a code violation.
Well, there was an onion this morning, I don't know if you saw this morning's paper, about weed farms, and they don't need the kind you smoke.
Yeah. We get,
That's a different problem.
those happen every spring because that's when the weeds are there.
Right.
By August, we never hear about it again. But
I will share. Well, excuse me. I will share with you though that our code enforcement officers, we have two very competent,
Yes.
very friendly code enforcement officers, and almost every week I get photos back from yards that were formerly may not have been a code violation, but if the neighbors are complaining, our code officers will go to that house and say, you know what, I can't process this as a violation, but I do want you to know that your neighbors are complaining. And I would say more often than not, the folks respond and they get it cleaned up. So I get the photos. Again, it's not something we can really shout about, but I do want to compliment our code enforcement officers for kind of getting that job done without really having to, so to speak.
Jeremy.
Yes, about a week or two ago, we heard on the news that Havasu is the only city that you can text 911
Correct.
in Arizona.
correct.
Yeah, I don't know if we're the only
Yeah,
ones.
no, we are,
But
in Arizona.
yeah, I know we're one of the first. But if we are the only, that's great. Yeah, you can if you see something that the police need to know about, you can either call 911 or you can send a text to 911.
Does the 911 off your cell phone, does it still go to Kingman like it used to, or does it go directly to our?
On the text goes directly to our dispatch.
Right.
When you call 911, depending on what the traffic is, you may be directed someplace else. In fact, it may be even directed to somewhere in California, for that matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that was the big thing, was that a lot of us keep a landline because we've heard if you have just a cell phone and you have a problem, that it goes to Kingman or someplace else before it ever comes to here.
That's a condition, a situation that we have with our cellular service here. It is getting better, but there is still a chance that if you call 911, you may be talking to a dispatcher in Kingman, but they know that you're in Havasu, so you will get a response, but it's just kind of an extra step that's frustrating, but it's getting better.
Do you have a question, Mike?
Yeah, I wondered what the status for that project along Swanson and the university that was senior citizens.
Oh,
Those plans are in process as well.
Do you have any idea when that might start? Or?
I don't. Desert Land Group are the folks that are handling that project. All I know is I've heard from our development people that the plans have been submitted and they're in plan review right now.
yeah, so if I had to guess, within the next 12 months, based on otherwise why put in the plans? So, go ahead.
Question on Slip and Hurt, brought it up. Watching the recording last month, you mentioned that the state's still doing its disappearing act to the cities on those funds.
Yes.
Is it not possible, I mean, I thought I heard you say that it's specific in those contracts or whatever you want to call it, that the monies go to the cities. Did I misunderstand? When it was originally proposed and legislature took action, it was approved. Did it not state that? Because I find it hard to believe that if it is written in there, that why doesn't the League of Cities and Towns, get, and we do an amendment?
Because there's also a clause in there that those funds can be used for DPS.
Right. Yeah, and that's in the Constitution.
Okay.
That's in the state constitution that those gas tax dollars can be used for highway patrol.
Right.
But obviously that was the DPS term back when that law was
Right.
enacted.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the clause that the legislature has used in the diversion. I will share that that we hear from our representative in Phoenix that the environment is changing regarding HERF at the legislature, and that what he is seeing is kind of a general change in attitude about HERF dollars, where for so many years it was they just swept it because they could. We were concerned that if that went on for too many years, that the institutional memory would be lost and it would just become an entitlement. And I'm pleased to report that what we're hearing is that there's a good chance that the legislators that are in place now are fully cognizant of the situation with HERF, and they are seeing a movement more towards getting the state weaned off of those HERF dollars and get them back into the communities where they're
For
generated.
instance, this year in the governor's budget, there was no restoration of HERF at all. But by the time the legislature got involved and made an agreement with the governor, $30 million did come to cities and towns this year. Now it should be 90 million, but it's still better than zero. And we're hearing, as Charlie said, we're hearing that, you know what, we're 7 years out of the recession or whatever, why are we still stealing $60 million from where it's supposed to be going? And so we're hopeful that over the next couple of years, the legislature will put it back what we had originally, and that is about $90 million, $90 to $120 million a year, go back to cities and towns and counties across Arizona to help with roads.
Well, I mean, the lake is our biggest draw. I'm sorry, if that's what I believe. Okay, so I remember when we had the SLIP funds, there were improvements, and it's getting harder and harder. Of course,
Right.
you know, when you're taking, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that SLIF will come back, because here's why.
Okay.
We know it's important, we believe it's important, but we're one city out of 91. There's probably 85 cities across Arizona that never got a dime of SLIF. So they don't care.
It's only available to cities where there's motorized boating. So obviously, you know, Glendale, they don't care
They
whether
don't
we get
care.
SLIF back or not.
Phoenix doesn't care.
But, and for those of you who don't know, what State Lake Improvement Funds is SLIF. It's a portion of your gas tax dollars that is attributable to boating. And there's also boating license fees and registration fees. And
Substantial fund.
oh,
Yeah.
there's millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that we've put in using SLIF monies. The Western Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy, the old Water Safety Center, that was built with SLIF money. The seawalls in the channel down, that was all done with SLIF money. So every year we applied for millions of dollars worth of SLIF money. And in fact, most years we got most of it because a third of all boating days occur right here on Lake Havasu. So this is where those tax dollars are being generated. And for years we enjoyed being the greatest recipients of those dollars. I mean, rightfully so. Well, now those dollars are supporting Arizona State Parks. So the money that would have otherwise gone into infrastructure here is now supporting the underpinnings of Arizona State Parks. So obviously, you know, Lake Havasu City is funding a disproportionate share of the operation of Arizona State Parks, but and that's because state parks came off of the state's general fund. And you know, I've been trying for years. It's like, if we can get state parks, you know, back onto the state general fund, maybe we can get SLIF back. And we get friendly nods, but that's about
Is
it.
it possible to put together a voter-approved ballot initiative or something, petition?
Well, HERF was, you
I mean,
know,
I'm just saying, you know,
you can do,
cities and towns.
well, we could do something on SLIF, but I will tell you just frankly, it won't pass. It'll pass here.
People won't read it, they won't.
No,
vote,
no,
so they'll vote
no, no. It matters here.
Right.
It doesn't matter in Phoenix, Glendale, Chandler, Tucson, you name it, it doesn't matter there.
That's where all the horsepower is.
That's where all the votes are. So it doesn't matter.
So you're saying don't try because I forecast.
Oh, no.
it.
Oh, no,
No.
we still try to get SLIF back, but having a voter initiative, you're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to watch it fail.
Yeah.
Chuck?
Yeah, the next time your state representative, either the Senator Sonny Borelli or the other ones, nothing against them, but, and they help us on other things, ask them at a town hall or whatever, if he agrees with restoring the HERF funds to all the states, because every city uses HERF funds.
Yep.
You need to hold their feet to the fire, or don't elect them, one of the two. That's the problem, is these people in these other towns, they keep electing people that vote against them.
Well, yeah, you're right.
If you want your HERF funds back, hold your state representatives' feet to the fire and say, do you believe in restoring the HERF funds to the cities and towns?
Mm-hmm. Now, you're right, and it's not just cities and towns, it's counties as well. And in
Yeah.
fact, right now, on Monday, the County Board of Supervisors is going to hear an item where one of the supervisors is suggesting a half-cent sales tax increase to generate money to basically offset the loss of HERF revenue so they can continue fixing roads. And that's what HERF revenues are intended. You can only use those monies for public roadway improvements between the curbs, where you've got curbs, of course. But there's an example of the cause and effect when these funds that would otherwise come back to the community get used elsewhere. The community still needs to fix our roads. So now we're looking at a 0.5-cent sales tax increase, a new tax that that the legislature down in Phoenix, they don't have to care about what happens out here in Mojave County as far as, you know, our sales taxes and such. But that's a direct byproduct of what they're doing down there when they're sweeping those funds that would otherwise go to work here, right here in our community.
Or they say, and this is kind of what gets me, is that they're very proud of saying, well, we didn't raise your taxes because we have a no new tax policy. No, you forced other municipalities and counties to raise the tax because you swept the money that we had. So, you know, and many of the cities, by the way, they are looking at a transportation tax. But again, we're pretty hopeful over the next couple of years because we did speak to our, we call it lobbyist representative, whatever you want to call it. And he said you can really see the change at the legislature saying, you know what, it's time we quit doing what we had to do. They felt that they had to do to get the state budget in balance, but they don't need to do it anymore. So they said, let's take this opportunity to get back to the way it used to be, and I'm hopeful that will really occur. So
if that 0.5-cent sales tax passes, I've heard that the county is going to use most of it in the county.
well, they
And
will.
not share with the cities that much.
No, they will share. What they would do, assuming this thing passed, it's either going to be 1/4 or 1/2. There's some options there, but they would do it based on miles of road. Because the county has, county has a lot of roads.
Well,
So-
we haven't had this discussion yet because we just got the agenda item.
Right.
And I've been
But that's how they did it.
and talking with my cohorts in the other cities here, and there's some issues there. You know, they're using centerline miles of roadways to determine what the redistribution is of those funds. But it doesn't break down those roadways. They've got 2,100 miles of centerline roadways in the county. We have 435 centerline miles here in Lake Havasu City. That's what they're basing the breakdown on. Well, our 435 miles, it's my opinion that sees a whole lot more traffic and needs a lot more maintenance than 2,100 miles of what may be mostly dirt roads out in the county somewhere. So I'm going to try and find out some more about how that works before we agree as a city to give up what may be $3 million a year of local taxing ability to give it to the county, when in fact if we wanted, we could do a local 0.5-cent sales tax and keep all that $5 million right here in Lake Havasu City.
And they're open to that because when it was Steve Moss that has actually came up with this, he gave it to us, said, you guys look at it, and if you can find a better way to allocate the dollars, let me know. So it isn't that they said take it or leave it.
Yeah, and again, we haven't had this conversation, but I'm considering sending a memo to the Board of Supervisors asking for a little bit more time to allow us to
Good idea.
to look at this thing and sit down and figure out where the equities lie and where our community might have a problem with it or not. It's only been a matter of days that we even got the detail.
Yeah, maybe there's some comment. I mean, it's hard to do it based on the level of traffic, but maybe there's some combination of population bases versus miles of road. It's just, there's probably a good way to do it.
And revenue too. The city of Havasu will probably generate at least 1/3 of that county's revenue.
Yeah,
It's
but
hard
we
to make
also
that
use the
argument.
roads in the
Yeah.
county,
Yeah.
right?
You know, we use the county roads too.
Right, so it can't be just, you can't do it, if you start doing little silos of, well, we generate 38% of all the sales taxes or whatever it is, and so we get 38% of the money, that if I'm on the other side, that ignores the fact that we use roads in other communities, in the county, etc. So there's just gotta be a way to come up with a formula that everybody says, yep, that's about as fair as we can get.
I was gonna say, because I bet you we have more traffic on Lake Havasu Avenue in 1 month than almost all the rural roads in the county.
Well, that's kind of my argument. And I know that the other city managers have some trepidation about it as well. And the formula that they've come up with may be a very good one. Once we've had the discussion, and maybe we come right back to it and say, you know what, this really is the best way to do it. But at this point, there's still a lot of questions. We haven't really had a chance to sit down and actually have that discussion. So I'm going to ask the board for that time. And again, I haven't cleared this with my bosses yet, so that's just a discussion that Toby Cotter, the city manager in Bullhead City, and I had at the Sarah Park ball fields watching his kid play ball last night. That's at least we had the discussion, and the more we talked about it, the more I was convinced that, you know what, we really do need more time to look at this thing.
The median on Lake Havasu Avenue, are we concerned about it being practical, or is it going to be, are we more concerned about being pretty? I mean, I'm looking at costs.
No, we're more concerned about accidents,
All right.
safety.
Safety, all right, and practicality, correct? And then also, can you tell me the stuff, the lighting, how it's going to be out near Staples? When is that going, when is it planned to?
Probably not even going to get started for another year.
Another year?
It's in the 2018 budget.
2018. Yeah, it's an ADOT project,
Okay.
so it would be
Right.
subject to whatever their scheduling is, but I'm hearing that it's in their 2018 budget.
And the reason we're doing that lighting out at just before the front of the Staples building
Right.
is they're going to be doing medians there as well, because that is the highest accident area in the city. People are making left turns out of there and boom, they crash. So they're going to be putting medians there, but the problem now becomes that there's really only one access point getting into that shopping center, and we said that is entirely unacceptable. We said we'd like it behind Staples, but go back there and there's a giant wash. You can't do it. So it's going to be in front of the Staples, and it should help quite a bit, because a left turn now on, what would that be, Kiowa? That thing will back up for miles. So that's why we're doing it that way. And again, it's really all about safety, because we have so many significant accidents right in that area trying to get into the old shopping center there.
A couple of things that I just want to mention quickly before they leave my brain. One is, if you get a chance, go out and check out the Sarah Park Trailhead. It's done. There's a nice new parking lot out there. The bathroom was placed yesterday. It's a modular bathroom. It's not beautiful, but it's functional. The actual structure itself is the bathroom that originally was placed at the transit center down here, where all the buses came in and met. We had a bathroom there. Well, we're not using that as a transit center anymore, so we picked up that bathroom and we took it out to Sarah Park and we set it out there at the trailhead. So now there's adequate parking. There's a restroom. There's going to be a drinking fountain. From what I understand, it's a pretty spectacular drinking fountain that includes a dog watering bowl and also a water bottle filling station, and so it's going to be quite nice, and it already is quite nice. The barriers are removed, so you can actually go out there and park now. What's missing, though, is an actual trailhead per se. There's 2 pillars and a gate, and that's for emergency vehicle access. That gate is locked, and the fire department is the one that has the key. We don't want people taking vehicles in there, obviously, but the area where you would naturally want to walk off of the new parking lot and get onto the trail goes right over the septic tank, if you will, for the bathroom. So we need to move the trailhead somewhere else. So we're going to be working with the Trails Committee at Parks and Rec Advisory Board to come up with a design for a kind of an official trailhead per se, that will welcome you to that area if you're a hiker or a biker or whatever. So, but it's very cool. I would invite you to go down and look at it.
Want to
And
mention Friends of the Fair?
oh yes, absolutely. And earlier, Mark Cowper was here from Friends of the Fair. And just yesterday, I was down there taking pictures of them setting the new bathroom, and I ran into Mark Cowper, who works for the Campbells, taking care of the rodeo grounds out there, and he was biking with his son. And I was telling him about this really cool drinking fountain, which was actually his idea from a couple of years ago. He said, we would really like to see this special drinking fountain at this trailhead. And so we incorporated it in, and I was teasing him about the cost of this drinking fountain. And this morning he showed up here, and Friends of the Fair is going to buy the drinking fountain. So that was very cool, very cool. And it's a $4,500 drinking fountain. So that was.
Is it cheaper on Amazon?
So that was very cool, and a classic example of Lake Havasu City and just why this is such a wonderful place to live. So. I'd also like to invite you down, as the mayor mentioned, the paving project down at the English Village. Jan knows for sure. But if you haven't been down there lately, I would invite you to go down there and check it out. It's very pretty. It's going to be those are nice improvements going on down there.
Go ahead.
Is there any kind of a plan, or hopefully an accelerated plan, for the city to go around and put in some curbs?
Did you just get here?
Yeah. I didn't tell him to say that. I promise.
Yeah, we had the discussion earlier, but just to recap, right now, what people always say is that by the time you get spending money on all the cleanup that you do, you could have put in curbs everywhere. Not true. Our cleanup budget is less than $150,000 a year. Curbs cost $250,000 per mile, because you can't just lay down cement. You've got to widen the road. You have to remove the mailboxes, remove the driveways, re-put all of those in, configure the roads so that the water flows properly. It's quite expensive. So we're encouraging people that have issues, either one, contact us to see if there's something we can do, but also to use larger rock out where you've got the little tiny 3/4 inch pebble stuff now. If you use a larger rock, which is what I did, that problem goes away. So, anyone else? Chuck?
Yeah, we decided not to buy a lot when we moved here. That was an R3 lot. Because it was required to put in widen the street in front of your property with curb and gutter and sidewalk. A lot of these R3 lots, I've heard, are switching to R2 or R1s, and have to put single-family homes on it. Is there any way that they could go ahead and require them to put the curb and gutter in at least when they get the change in zoning?
Well, no. If they take it to R1 or R2, then they're not required to do those street improvements. R3, they are.
Right.
So if they want to leave it in R3 but build a single-family home, they still have to put in those road improvements.
Right, they spend the road. But if they get the zoning change to R1 or R2,
Then they're not
they're
required.
not required.
Right.
Could there be a stipulation in a zoning change to require them to go ahead, at least put the curb and gutter in?
Well, that would be
Not
a
requiring the sidewalk, but
planning and zoning would be where that would have to be discussed, and whether planning and zoning can actually add that requirement as part of the down zone. I'm not sure, frankly.
There might be
Chuck.
an equity issue there,
Yeah.
compared to other R1s and 2s. And they're not rezoning because they don't want to put in curbs. They're rezoning because the market demands R1s versus R3. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Anyone else?
Okay, one other thing, on that weed thing that we were talking about, our next door neighbor is from Washington, and he lives up there on a sailboat all summer, but he lives here all winter long, and he likes to keep his yard natural. Well,
Natural.
the weeds were 4 foot high all the way up to the curb. He has curbing because it's on Southland, and that curb and gutter, and that, no sidewalks. But if you come down this, our street to look up to see if there's any traffic, you couldn't see.
Well, that's the secret.
That's
We
a
can
safety
deal with
issue.
that.
That was a situation where the code enforcement came out and told him he had to
Okay, good.
Right.
turn that back.
Yeah,
That's appropriate.
that's an issue, that's a situation where we can deal with it. So,
That would be appropriate. June?
Yes, regarding your retirement.
No.
Look at the grin.
I could do a lot of damage in 6 months.
With all your vast knowledge of the city and everything, we've known you since probably 02, 03. How many years have you really worked for the city?
I started, my first day at Lake Havasu City was on September 10th, 2001. So 9/11 was my second day on the job. So I always remember that.
So then when we first met you at the first council meeting, and you were the
I was the public information officer. Yeah.
So you were there barely, what, a year or so?
As the PIO, 5 years. And then I became the Communications and Intergovernmental Affairs Officer. And that went until 2009. In October of 2009, when I was asked to be interim city manager. And then it was in June of 2010 that they offered me the contract. So it's been, when I retire, I'll have 16 years with the city, 8 years as the city manager, and I'll be old enough to retire. So, but
I trapped you into any volunteer work.
Absolutely. In fact, we have no plans on moving. This is where we live. This is my new hometown. I feel fortunate that I don't have to retire from someplace else and move here. I can retire right where I am and have half that job done. We plan to do a little bit of traveling. I want to get out and see some of the United snakes that I've never seen before and do some fishing and come back, and then I'll be haunting this place for years to come. So no telling where I might pop up.
A lot of us don't know where you originally came from and what you did before.
San Diego. I'm a native San Diegan. I grew up in the beach area and San Diego State University, then went to Central Texas where I worked for an electric utility there. Was a distribution systems engineer there for 8 years and then went back to San Diego. Went to work in the water and wastewater industry there in the engineering fields and the development area, helping developers actually build 30,000 home master plan communities. So that was my background before coming here. And even in 1992, I got out of the engineering field when I was kind of kicked upstairs into management. And so I haven't practiced engineering for a good long time, but that's kind of my background, the technical end of things, and has really helped in the public affairs aspect was what I got into when they asked me to be in management, was in public affairs and putting a program together there. And so that was what prompted me to come to Lake Havasu City as the public information officer, because they needed what I could bring to the table, and I always wanted to live in the desert. I love the desert, and it's been everything that we hoped it would be and much more. So, like I said, we're here to stay for the long haul.
I could use a few volunteers in the visitor center.
Well, let me go fishing first, okay?
Especially with his knowledge of the city, right?
If Jan doesn't want you, or you want to put come to the museum.
Okay. As a display or?
Yeah, a relic of the past.
Ancient artifacts like
Yeah, is that wax? No, that's real. Yeah, ow.
We'll sponsor a fish fry ad truck, give you a tack, wow.
Well, I'm a catch and release kind of guy, so yeah. We could talk about that.
All right, any last questions?
What was the date on that, up on Curio, was that
Oh, September
September.
29th.
September 29th?
4 o'clock.
Yeah, now next month, by the way, we will be dark because it falls on July 7th. And so it'll be a holiday weekend, and so we'll be dark, but then do we know where we'll be after in August? Do we have a location yet?
Oh, Bagel Bin.
We'll be at the Bagel Bin in August, the first Friday in August at 7:30 in the morning, so. All right, well, thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
folks.
it.